What happens when Hollywood's most genuine star walks into a talk show expecting respect and gets ambushed instead? Jason Momoa thought he was sitting down for a friendly chat about his latest projects, but Jimmy Kimmel had other plans. What started as a routine late-night appearance quickly spiraled into one of the most shocking confrontations in television history. The Aquaman star had just finished his opening pleasantries when Kimmel decided to go for the jugular. Instead of discussing Momoa's upcoming films or his environmental advocacy work, the host pulled out a stack of printouts, a smug grin spreading across his face. "So Jason, before we talk about your new movie, I want to address something that's been circulating online," Kimmel said, his tone dripping with mock concern. "There are some interesting photos from your weekend in Malibu that I think our audience would love to hear about." Momoa's expression shifted instantly. The warm smile that had greeted the audience moments before vanished, replaced by confusion and growing irritation. "What photos are you talking about, Jimmy?" "Oh, come on, don't play coy with me," Kimmel chuckled, holding up what appeared to be paparazzi shots. "You were spotted at a beach cleanup event, but some eagle-eyed fans noticed you seemed pretty cozy with a certain someone who wasn't your ex-wife." The audience fell silent. This wasn't the light-hearted banter they'd come to expect from Kimmel's show. Even the house band seemed to sense the shift in energy, their usual background chatter dying down to nothing. Momoa leaned forward in his chair, his massive frame suddenly seeming even more imposing under the studio lights. "Jimmy, I don't know what you're trying to imply here, but I was at that beach cleanup doing volunteer work. I take my environmental commitment seriously." Sure, Kimmel waved dismissively. "But you have to admit, the optics are interesting. I mean, you're freshly divorced, you're looking good, you're saving the ocean one piece of trash at a time. It's like a romantic comedy waiting to happen." "The optics?" Momoa's voice carried a dangerous edge now. "You mean the optics of me actually caring about the planet while you sit here trying to manufacture drama for ratings?" Kimmel's grin widened. He was clearly enjoying this more than he should have been. "Hey, I'm just asking the questions America wants answered. You can't blame a guy for being curious about Aquaman's love life." "Actually, I can blame you for that," Momoa shot back, his Polynesian heritage evident in the way his voice carried both strength and controlled anger. "What I do in my personal time, especially when I'm trying to make a positive difference, shouldn't be fodder for your comedy bits." The host leaned back in his chair, completely unbothered by the mounting tension. "Look, Jason, you're a public figure. You put yourself out there, you star in massive blockbuster movies, you have millions of followers on social media. You can't expect privacy when you're living your life in the spotlight." "Privacy?" Momoa's laugh was bitter. "I was picking up plastic bottles on a public beach. How is that an invasion of privacy? And why are you acting like spending time with friends is some kind of scandal?" Kimmel shuffled through his papers again, clearly prepared for this exact response. "Friends, right? Is that what we're calling it? Because my sources tell me there was quite a bit of hand-holding and some very intimate conversations happening during this quote-unquote environmental work." The audience was now visibly uncomfortable. A few people in the front row exchanged worried glances. This was supposed to be entertainment, but it felt more like watching someone get cornered and attacked. Momoa stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. At 6'4", he towered over Kimmel even when the host was sitting behind his desk. "Your sources? You mean the paparazzi who follow me around hoping to catch me in some made-up controversy?" "Jimmy, I came here to talk about my work, not to be interrogated about my personal life." "Sit down, Jason," Kimmel said, his tone suddenly sharper. "We're in the middle of an interview here." "An interview?" Momoa's eyes flashed with genuine anger now. "This isn't an interview, this is an ambush. You invited me here under false pretenses, and now you're trying to create some tabloid story out of nothing." Kimmel's mask was starting to slip. The jovial Host persona was giving way to something uglier underneath. Look, pal, this is my show. I ask the questions I want to ask. If you can't handle a little heat, maybe you shouldn't be in Hollywood. A little heat? Momoa's voice rose for the first time. You're literally making up stories about my personal life and presenting them as fact to your audience. That's not heat. That's character assassination. The studio audience was now completely silent, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Even Kimmel's usually loyal crowd seemed unsure about what they were witnessing. Character assassination? Kimmel laughed, but it sounded forced now. Come on, Jason, don't be so dramatic. I'm just having a little fun with you. Can't you take a joke? And there it was, the classic deflection. When caught being genuinely nasty, fall back on the old "it was just a joke" defense. But Mamoa wasn't buying it, and neither was anyone else in the room. Just a joke? Mamoa repeated, his voice dangerously quiet now. You think ambushing someone with lies about their personal life is a joke? You think trying to embarrass me in front of millions of people is funny? Kimmel's confidence was clearly shaken, but he doubled down anyway. Oh, please, Jason. You Hollywood types are all the same. You love the attention when it suits you, but the moment someone asks a tough question, you play the victim card. Tough question? Mamoa took a step closer to the desk. What's tough about making up stories? What's journalistic about spreading gossip? You want to ask me tough questions? Ask me about the difficulties of filming underwater scenes. Ask me about the physical demands of action sequences. Ask me about the responsibility of representing Polynesian culture on screen. Those are tough questions that actually matter. The host was starting to sweat under the studio lights, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. Look, I've been doing this show for years. I know what my audience wants to hear about. They don't care about your filming techniques. They want to know about your love life. Your audience? Mamoa gestured toward the crowd, many of whom were now shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Have you asked them what they want to hear about? Or are you just projecting your own obsession with celebrity gossip onto them? Kimmel's producer was frantically gesturing from off stage, clearly trying to signal that this segment needed to end, but the host ignored him completely. You know what, Jason? I think you're overreacting here. This is how talk shows work. We have fun. We joke around. We give people a little entertainment. Entertainment? Momoa's laugh was sharp and humorless. You call making up stories about people's personal lives entertainment? You call trying to humiliate your guests fun? Is this what you call having respect for the people who come on your show? Respect? Kimmel's voice took on a mocking tone. You want respect? You're an actor, Jason. You pretend to be other people for a living. You're not curing cancer. You're not solving world hunger. You splash around in a pool wearing a costume, and somehow that makes you think you deserve special treatment? The audience audibly gasped. Several people in the front row looked genuinely shocked by their host's words. This wasn't the Jimmy Kimmel they thought they knew. Momoa's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You think that's all I do? You think my work means nothing? I've spent years advocating for ocean conservation, supporting indigenous communities, using my platform to raise awareness about climate change. But you reduce all of that to splashing around in a pool? Look, I'm sure your charity work is very noble, Kimmel said with barely concealed sarcasm. But let's be honest here. You're successful because you look good without a shirt on, not because you're some kind of environmental hero. The insult hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Even Kimmel seemed to realize he'd gone too far, but it was too late to take it back. The damage was done. Momoa stood perfectly still for a moment, his breathing controlled but his eyes blazing with fury. You know what, Jimmy? I've met a lot of people in this industry. Some good, some bad, some who've lost their way. But I've never met anyone who seems to take such pleasure in tearing others down for no reason. Oh, spare me the moral lecture, Kimmel snapped. You come on my show, you sit in that chair, you're fair game. That's how this works. Fair game? Momoa's voice was rising. Again. I came here as your guest. I came here to promote my work and maybe have an entertaining conversation. Instead, you've spent the entire time trying to manufacture controversy and insult me personally. Kimmel was clearly feeling cornered now, and like any bully when confronted, he was getting nastier. You know what your problem is, Jason? You can't handle the fact that you're just another pretty face in Hollywood. You want to be taken seriously, but you're basically a male model who got lucky. The audience was now openly uncomfortable. Several people had their phones out, clearly recording what was happening. Others were looking toward the exits, unsure if they should stay or leave. Momoa leaned over the desk, bringing his face closer. To Kimmel's. A male model who got lucky? I've been working in this industry for over 2 decades. I've trained for years to do my own stunts. I've learned multiple languages for roles. I've worked with some of the most respected directors in the business. But you reduce all of that to luck and looks? Hey, if the costume fits, Kimmel smirked, but his voice was shaking slightly now. You want to know what I think? Momoa straightened up, his full height now towering over the cowering host. I think you're threatened by people who actually use their platform for good. I think you're so used to tearing people down that you've forgotten how to build anything up. I think you've been sitting behind this desk for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to actually create something meaningful. Kimmel's face was turning red now, a combination of embarrassment and anger. You don't know what you're talking about. I've been entertaining people for years. I've interviewed thousands of celebrities. I know this business better than you ever will. Entertaining people? Momoa's voice was incredulous. Is that what you call this? Jimmy, look around you. Look at your audience. Do they look entertained to you? Or do they look like they're watching someone have a breakdown on live television? The camera caught several audience members nodding, in agreement with Momoa's words. Others were whispering to each other, clearly disturbed by what they were witnessing. Kimmel realized he was losing control of the situation, but instead of backing down, he made the worst possible choice. He decided to escalate even further. You want to know what I really think? Kimmel stood up from behind his desk, his voice taking on a venomous tone. I think you're just another washed-up actor trying to stay relevant by pretending to care about the environment. I think your whole noble savage act is just marketing to make people forget that your career peaked with Aquaman. The words hit the studio like a bomb. The racist undertones were unmistakable, and the audience's reaction was immediate and visceral. Several people stood up, some heading for the exits, others pulling out their phones to document what was happening. Momoa went completely still. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. What did you just say to me? Kimmel realized his mistake immediately, but his ego wouldn't let him apologize. Instead, he tried to deflect. Oh, don't try to make this about race. You know exactly what I meant. No, Jimmy, I want you to explain exactly what you meant by noble savage. Momoa's voice was steady, but everyone in the studio could feel the barely contained rage radiating from him. I want you to explain that comment to my face. The host was sweating profusely now, his carefully constructed persona crumbling in real time. Look, I didn't mean it like that. I was just saying that you play up the whole environmental warrior thing for publicity. You didn't mean it like that? Momoa stepped around the desk, and Kimmel instinctively backed away. Then how exactly did you mean it? Because from where I'm standing, it sounds like you just reduced my heritage, my culture, and my genuine commitment to protecting the planet to some kind of racist stereotype. I'm not racist, Kimmel stammered, but his voice lacked any conviction. I have friends from all backgrounds. I've supported diverse causes. Oh, you have friends from all backgrounds? Momoa's tone was mocking now. Well, that settles it then. I guess having diverse friends gives you a free pass to use racist language on national television. The audience was in complete chaos now. Security guards were moving closer to the stage, unsure of what to do. The show's producers were frantically trying to figure out how to salvage the situation, but it was clear that this had gone far beyond anything they could control. Kimmel was backed against the wall now, literally and figuratively. "Jason, I think you're blowing this way out of proportion. Maybe we should just take a commercial break and start over." "Start over?" Momoa's laugh was bitter. "You think you can just insult someone's heritage and then take a commercial break to make it all go away? You think you can reduce someone's culture to a stereotype and then pretend it never happened?" "I apologize if you were offended," Kimmel said, using the classic non-apology that admits no wrongdoing. "If I was offended?" Momoa's voice rose for the first time since the racist comment. "Jimmy, you just used a racial slur on live television. This isn't about me being offended. This is about you showing your true colors to the entire world." The host was completely panicked now, his usual smugness replaced by desperation. "Look, maybe I chose my words poorly, but you're making this into something it's not. Can't we just move on?" "Move on?" Mamoa was incredulous. "You ambush me with lies about my personal life. You insult my work. You reduce my advocacy to publicity stunts. And then you use racist language to describe me. And now you want to just move on?" "I said I was sorry," Kimmel pleaded, but even he seemed to know how hollow it sounded. "No, you didn't," Mamoa corrected him. "You said you apologize if I was offended. That's not an apology. That's you trying to make this my problem instead of taking responsibility for your own words." The security guards were getting closer now, clearly preparing to intervene if things got physical. But Mamoa wasn't interested in violence. He was interested in making sure everyone understood exactly what had happened here. "You know what the saddest part about all of this is, Jimmy?" Momoa's voice was calm again, but there was a finality to it that made everyone in the studio pay attention. "I actually had respect for you before tonight. I thought you were one of the good ones in this business. I thought you genuinely cared about entertaining people in a positive way." Kimmel opened his mouth to respond, but Momoa held up a hand to stop him. "But now I see what you really are," Momoa continued. "You're just another bully with a platform. You use your position to tear people down because it makes you feel powerful. And when someone calls you out on it, you play the victim and act like they're the problem." "Jason, please," Kimmel started, but his voice was barely a whisper now. "Please what?" Momoa asked. "Please pretend this didn't happen? Please let you get away with treating your guests like garbage? Please ignore the fact that you just showed your true character to millions of people?" The studio was completely silent now except for the hum of the cameras and the occasional whisper from the stunned audience. Momoa looked directly into the main camera, addressing the viewers at home. "To anyone watching this, I want you to understand something. This is what happens when people in positions of power think they can say whatever they want without consequences. This is what happens when bullies get comfortable behind their desks and forget that the people they're attacking are human beings with feelings and dignity." He turned back to Kimmel, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "And, Jimmy, I want you to understand something too. My culture, my heritage, my commitment to environmental protection, these aren't marketing gimmicks. They're part of who I am. And no small-minded bully with a talk show is going to make me ashamed of any of that." With that, Momoa pulled off his lapel microphone and placed it on Kimmel's desk. "I'm done here. Good luck explaining this to your bosses." As he walked toward the exit, the audience began to applaud. It started with just a few people but quickly grew until the entire studio was giving him a standing ovation. Kimmel remained frozen behind his desk, his career and reputation crumbling around him in real time. The cameras kept rolling as Mamoa disappeared backstage, capturing every moment of Kimmel's humiliation. The host, who had started the evening thinking he could bully a guest into submission, was left standing alone, exposed for what he truly was, with millions of witnesses to his downfall.